Hi, good morning. My name is María Milagros. This video includes the content that we saw in class on Wednesday, October the 13th, 2021, and it's about basic economic concepts part 1. As I explained, we're going to meet two new sets of concepts related to economics, which are completely different, well, not completely different, but more complex than the ones that we saw last year. And because this year we will see economics more in depth, we need to grasp these concepts first before we do something else. So this is a short summary of what we saw in class. We started with these questions like what will your life be like during the years 2025 to 2035? And we also discussed what kind of work will you do after college? By 2025 or 2035, you will be between 18, 17 to 27 or 28. So answers varied from I am going to be working, I am going to be graduated from college, I will move to another country, to answers like I still don't know what I want to do for college, maybe medicine, psychology, engineering, chemistry, acting. That depends, of course, on who you are as a person, but it doesn't matter if you don't know the answer. However, what is important is that those questions, as the ones that are here, are related in some way to economics. For example, how much will you earn in that first job after college depends on not only what you studied, but where you live in, because an engineer will not make the same amount of money here that in the United States, for example. Where will you be living and who will your friends be? What is the economic situation or conditions of the country that you will be living in? How many friends will you have? Because maybe you want to have 1,000 friends. However, you do not have unlimited time. Time is a limited resource and you need to choose with whom you spend that time. So maybe you will not have 100. Maybe you need to have 15 or 20 friends. That is where scarcity comes along. Will you buy a house in the next few years? How's the housing market in that place? Is what you earn in that first job enough to buy a house in the next few years? If so, how much will you pay for that? All of this is related to economics in some kind of way. However, before we start to discuss that, we need to grasp the basic economic concepts, and today we will study 5 of them. The first one is this duality between goods and bads. It's important to know that the word bad does not exist in the English language. We only have bad, B-A-D. However, for the sake of this class and the book that I use, we will accept it as a word, bad. So let's start with the good. A good is anything that gives a person utility. And you can think, wow, that's complicated. What's a utility? But a utility is simply the satisfaction one receives from a good. So anything that gives a person satisfaction, it's a good. In fact, a good doesn't always have to be tangible. Tangible is when you can experience something with your senses, either with your touch, with your sight, with your smell, or for example, in a video game, you cannot touch it, but you're experiencing it through your senses. You are in the video game. So they can be tangible or they can be intangible. Anything that gives you satisfaction from having it. If I think about a phone, oh, my phone gives me a lot of satisfaction. Why? Because I am able to contact my family, my friends. I am able to video chat with my students. I am able to read with an app, to check social media, to play certain games, to play music. So all of that gives me satisfaction. Therefore, my phone is a tangible good. Then we have the complete opposite of a good, which is a bad. A bad is anything from which individuals receive disutility. Wow, what is that? Simply dissatisfaction. Anything that doesn't give us satisfaction gives us dissatisfaction, which is the same as disutility. Now let's work with some examples. A good, we have a tangible goods, a dog, a new video game, clothes are examples. If it's intangible, friendship gives you satisfaction, trust gives you satisfaction, love, happiness, enjoyment, those are all goods. Intangible ones, however, and you receive utility from them. You have these goods, you enjoy them, so they give you satisfaction. On the other hand, we have the bad, a disease, for example, COVID, or the flu, or someone who is being annoying, bad weather when you want to go out to the beach, for example. All of those things are bad. They cause disutility or dissatisfaction. This is our first set of concepts. Then we have this important aspect that I wanted to highlight. We have goods and we have bads, right? It is important to know that people will pay to get goods. You will pay to be able to own the goods. For example, here's $1,000 for the computer. That is how much it is worth. You pay to get it. On the other hand, you have the bads. People will pay to get rid of bads. You don't want them in your life. So you can say, I will pay you, doctor, if you can prescribe something for my flu. I pay the doctor in order to get rid of my disease, and then I go to the pharmacy and I get the good of medicine. I pay to get it. Why? Because I want to get rid of my bad, in this case, the disease. So obviously, people want goods and they do not want bads. That is our first set of concepts. Then we have these other concepts that we studied very briefly last year. The first one is resources in general. Why is this important? Because if we're talking about goods, goods just do not appear like in a magic trick. Never. You cannot snap your fingers and then have a good appear out of nowhere. So we need resources to produce goods. Resources, what goods are made of or produced out of. Then generally, economists divide resources into 4 broad categories, which are going to be called land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. In class, we discussed briefly the meanings of those terms, but basically this is what they are. First of all, we have land. People tend to confuse land with only just like a piece of a plot where you build something, a piece of literal land or soil where you build. That is part of it. However, land encompasses all natural resources. So that includes resources such as minerals, forests, water, unimproved land, that means land that hasn't been touched. And this is why you can find as examples, oil, wood, animals, plants are all natural resources. Then we have labor. Labor is the effort in the job, okay? It is the physical and the mental talents that people contribute to the production of something. For a person, for example, a person that builds a house, you know, with a hammer, and they spend all day loading and unloading materials, and they go and assemble everything together, and they spend all day sweating in the sun building the house. That is a physical talent that is being put as a contribution to the production of a house. It's a physical labor. However, you can also have mental labor or intellectual labor. My job, for example, I do not spend the day working with my body. I do not have to move things or build things or create things with my hands. However, I am putting my mental talents, the knowledge that I have cultivated and received and expanded to the production of knowledge in you. as students. So that also counts as labor. Then we have capital. People tend to confuse capital with money. They're not the same thing. Capital is basically goods that can be used to produce more goods. Good that makes more goods. So you have factories, you have machinery, tools, computers, buildings. In a factory, you can produce, I don't know, maybe flour or cookies or cars. You have a factory that makes more goods. Machinery, the machines themselves. A machine that produces glass screens for cell phones. It is producing goods. It is one good, one machine that produces many goods. You have the tools, computers, for example, 3D printers, buildings. Those are all examples of capital. You use money to buy capital, but capital is not money. That is important. Last but not least, we have entrepreneurship. We saw it last year in the third term, and it basically refers to the talent that some people have for organizing the other three types of resources. So the talent that some people have to organize land, labor, and capital to achieve something. What is that something? Well, producing goods, seeking new business opportunities, and developing new ways of doing things, which was, remember, the differentiating aspect of entrepreneurship. New ways of doing things, and that leads you to new business opportunities. Now we're going to meet a really old friend that we met last year, and it's called scarcity. If you remember well, and we were really emphatic on this concept, scarcity is the situation where we have unlimited wants and needs and limited resources. That is everything we have seen so far. Right now, we're going to be a little more specific. Scarcity is then the condition in which our wants, remember, we want many things, but in here it's going to be goods. Our wants for goods are greater, are bigger than the limited resources available to satisfy those wants. What type of resources specifically? The four that we already saw just now: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So our wants for goods are greater than the limited resources available to satisfy those wants. It is important to know that scarcity affects everyone. It affects us, for example, when we go to the supermarket and we cannot find an item that we're looking for because they already ran out of it. They need to order more. That would be and how scarcity affects us. Or I want to buy a new car. However, I do not have the money. I have scarcity of money. Okay, so it affects me in that particular way. However, billionaires, and it's hard to think of it, but billionaires are also affected by scarcity. Billionaires may be able to satisfy more of their wants for tangible goods. That is natural. Why? Because they have more money to pay for that. So they can have more houses, more cars, more trips, whatever you can think of. However, they still may not have the resources to satisfy all their wants. Why? Because their wants might include, for example, more time with their children. We're all going to die at some point. So you cannot buy more time than the one you are allotted in this world. Maybe they want more true friends because they have a lot of money and they cannot trust everyone. They would like to have sincere relationships and they don't. Maybe they want no disease in the world, or they want peace, and 100 other things that they do not have the resources to produce because they are not tangible goods. They are intangible, and you cannot produce intangible goods, but you still can suffer the scarcity of them. So this is really important. And last but not least, you should know that scarcity has three effects. The first one is that we need to make choices. And we need to make choices because of scarcity. Why? Our limited wants are greater than our limited resources. We just said that. So we must choose which ones we will satisfy and which we will not. For example, I have $20 and I have a sweater that is worth $20 and two new t-shirts that are worth 10 each. So do I spend the $20 on the sweater or do I spend them on the two shirts? If I want a new video game console and I have one that costs $300, but I need to get one, and I also have a sibling who wants a gaming console. So do I buy only the $300 one or do I buy two for $150 each? I cannot buy the three. I don't have $600. I only have $300. So we need to make choices. I would love to have the $300 one and also the $150 one, but I do not have enough money. So we are forced to make a choice because of scarcity. Then as a second effect, we have a rationing device. It sounds maybe complicated, but I swear it's not. A rationing device is a means, a way of deciding who gets available resources and goods. It is a way of being able to limit the access to resources and goods. So if people have scarcity, then we need mandatorily a rationing device to decide who gets the available quantity of resources. For example, prices. If we have 100 cars and everyone wants a new car, how do we decide who gets what quantity of the new cars? Of course, the people who can pay the price of the car, because I might want a Ferrari, but do I have 500,000 euros? No, I don't. So who gets the car? The people or the person who can pay for it. So prices limit our access to goods and resources. And that is normal because we have a scarcity of money, and then we need to have a rationing device, which is prices, to decide who accesses what resources. And then we have, competition. We met competition last year as well. Competition, remember, it's not only when you're competing in a race or something that you're 10, but only one of you can win. That example shows us that competition exists because of scarcity. Why? Because if everyone run the race and everyone is able to win the race, there would be no scarcity and no competition. Why would I need to compete with you if we're all getting the same thing? That doesn't make much sense, right? So competition exists because of scarcity. There is only one place. That one place is super scarce because only 1 out of 10 can get it. So we compete to get that first place. It is the same thing with resources, wants, and needs. If there were enough resources to satisfy all of our unlimited wants, people would not have to compete for the available limited resources. So as you can see, people compete for many things. People compete for jobs. They compete to get in a given college or university. Students compete for grades. States and cities compete for businesses. So this all happens because of scarcity. Scarcity of jobs, scarcity of businesses, scarcity of money, scarcity of good grades. And number 2, whatever the rationing device is, people will compete for it. Why? Because whenever I set a rationing device, I want to be able to earn it as much as I can. So if the dollar price is the rationing device, people will compete to earn dollars. Why? Because it will allow them to buy more. For example, people attend college to earn a higher income after graduation. Why? Because more money, that means a higher income, more money, will allow you to satisfy more of your wants. You are competing for the rationing device. If the rationing device were cookies, then you would have people fighting over who wins the most cookies, because cookies will allow me to satisfy more of the things I need and the things I want. So those are the three effects of scarcity: choice, a rationing device, and competition. All of these factors lead us to the last concept of the day, which is economics. Previously, last year, we said that economics was not only the study of mankind in the ordinary business of life, but also the study of how people, when faced with scarcity, make rational self-interest choices to satisfy their wants and needs. In here, we're going to express it in a bit simpler way. Why? Because many economists say that if scarcity didn't exist, neither would economics. And that is the reason why they define economics as the science of scarcity. And more completely, then, we will have that economics is the science of how individuals and societies deal with the fact of scarcity. That is what gives economics sense, scarcity. And what is scarcity? That wants are greater than limited resources available to satisfy those wants. This is going to be our definition of economics for the time being. Always, always related to scarcity. So remember, if you have any questions related to the video or the content of the class, feel free to reach me via email. And what do you need to do? You copy all slides identified with the blue or orange moon. If you didn't see the moons, then it's from 5 to 9 and from 11 to 16. Review this material if you need to. And then we have a project that we're going to start working on next week. For that, you're going to be in groups of 4 or 5 people. So make sure to sign up with someone that you feel comfortable working with. I'm sorry for the misspelling of the word different. It's in Spanish. I'm going to change it. But please get along with steps 1, 2, and 3, which is 5 for whatever reason. I'm sorry about that too. Thank you very much for your attention. Remember that I am at your service. See you soon. Bye-bye.